technologies in agriculture. As we know, the crisis of drinking water are going increasing day by day. So, for the conservation and management of water requires the use of various strategies that includes reducing wastage, prevent damaging water quality, and improve water quality and improve water management. So, in today's webinar, we have invited very eminent speakers from different countries to discuss all aspects related with water management. So, before the introduction of our speakers, I would like to request Honorable President of the University, Professor H.L. Verma, to kindly address. Sir, please.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, madam, for giving me this opportunity to welcome our guests today. Now, friends, it is a great occasion that Department of Agriculture of Jagannath University, Jaipur, is organizing the second international webinar in Rome. First, they organized few days back, and today's webinar is on new advances in water management technologies in agriculture. Now, in itself, it is a subject which is of great national importance, human importance, that potable water is something which is a scarce commodity, which is in short supply. So anything which is in short supply needs to be managed. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we all know that 70% of the Earth's surface is covered by water, but of the total water available, only 0.5% potable water is available for human consumption. So that is the state. So that requires management technologies. That requires water management technologies. So water management technologies with particular reference to the agriculture sector. So India being a agri-based economy, and around 70% of the population is still dependent, earns its livelihood from agriculture. So it is an important subject. From that angle, it is of national importance, and it is of concern to every human being, every person. So today we have with us very senior, eminent speakers from India and abroad. So to name them, Mr. Hans G. Egelrob, who is water resource and modeling expert, CEO and partner, Engrob and Singh Private Limited, Denmark. We welcome Dr. Hans to this international webinar, and Dr. Alka Upadhyay, who is Technical Director, Environment, WEES Engineering Solutions Private Limited, Udaipur. We welcome you, madam, on behalf of the university, on my own behalf, extend you hearty welcome. And Mr. Jesper Google Benisoy, who is Global Convener, Director, Danish Water Forum, Senior Project Manager, DHI, Denmark. So these three keynote speakers, on behalf of the university, on my own behalf, on behalf of all the faculty members, so I extend warm welcome. And in addition to that, I extend my welcome and congratulate Dr. P.N. Kalla, who is Dean, Faculty of Sciences, Department of Agriculture of the university, Professor S.L. Sharma, Professor M.C. Bohra. They are the senior professors in the department who are the force behind organizing all such type of activities of international importance. And the members of the organizing committee, Dr. Ranjita Soni, Engineer Madhali Anusha, Ms. Aparna, and Dr. Nisha Meena. So I congratulate the department and welcome all the faculty members, all the students who today have joined to participate in this one-day international webinar on a very important subject. Now, being a student of management, I understand that what management is. When we talk of managing anything or management, say water management for agriculture. So management teaches us that there should be a proper planning, proper implementation of the things which are planned, and finally ensuring that whatever has been planned, it has been properly implemented. So effective control is required to be there. So that is the concept of management. That is the concept of, now in the context of agriculture, water management. So we look at what type of management is required. So management is required that since water is the most essential input for human beings and particularly for agriculture point of view. So it is the most important input. So its supply is scarce. It is in short supply. It is not abundantly available. So what should be methods? What should be the technologies? What should be the sort of planning which need to be done so that this scarce commodity, which is most essential, without which agriculture cannot be possible. So it is the essential input. So what type of irrigation methodologies, technologies we need to adopt, and what are the advancements which are available, what type of technology is available abroad, and we need to learn all that. Now in our state, if we look at the state of Rajasthan, lot of land is available. There's no scarcity of land. The only thing which is not available in adequate supply, that is water for irrigation. So that is the subject. That is the subject for discussion. That agriculture importance, we all understand that for food security, for sustainable growth, life cannot be possible without proper sustainable agriculture. And for a country like India, which is agro-based economy, so this is the main sector. Agriculture is the main sector. So India cannot become a world power or a super economic power unless and until improvements take place in the field of agriculture. So agriculture sector must improve, agriculture growth must take place, agriculture advancements must take place, because if we look at the scenario abroad, that our productivity per hectare productivity or our per farmer productivity is much lower as compared to the advanced countries in the world. So advanced countries in the world, so they have made so many advancements. Technology is one of the important factor in that. So from that angle, if we look at the today's topic, it is highly important and is of concern to everyone, all persons. So it is of national importance from that point of view. So now there can be, because being a student of management, if we look at, I'm thinking about that, that if 70% earth surface is covered by water, now if something can be done, that water which is highly salty, which is saline water, so if that can be converted into a potable water, that there are scientists that they can evolve certain technologies. So perhaps then this problem can be solved to a great extent. And we understand that certain countries in the world where the scarcity of water is much more than India, because here we have availability of water to some extent. So they have started using ocean's water, converting saline water into potable water. So that type of technology also need to be discussed. So what can be done in that direction? What is happening in the world? So in that context, so what can be done in our state, in the state of Rajasthan, so that our agriculture sector further prospers, grow, and productivity improves. So all these issues, I hope the scientists will be reflecting upon. And with these words, I once again welcome the speakers, the guests, and the department experts organizing committee. And I wish and I hope it is going to be a great success at today's webinar. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your giving us auspicious thoughts regarding water management for the agriculture. Now I would like to invite Pro-President Professor Vishali Sharma for welcome address. Ma'am.
So, very warm namaskar to our eminent and expert guests from Denmark, Mr. Hans and Mr. Jesper, Dr. Alka Upadhyay from Udaipur, Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Varma, Registrar Mr. Tanmay Patnayak, Dean Faculty of Science and convener of this webinar, Professor Kalla, Professor S.L. Sharma, organizing team, dear colleagues, and all the participants. So once again, I welcome you all and would like to thank you for coming together on this platform to discuss such a relevant topic, such a relevant theme, new advancements in water management technologies in agriculture. So why, though water conservation is very, very necessary for our livelihood, for our survival, because we know that India is facing a water crisis. It is not just India, but all over the world, we are facing this water crisis, as already said by our Vice Chancellor. So there may be many reasons in India of this water crisis. It may be increasing population. It may be lack of adequate planning, as I said, that the management of resources is most important. So apart from that, we can see that increased corporatization, industrial human waste, and so many things are taking place. So I would just like to quote from Financial Express, where I read a few months or some time ago, that National Geophysical Research Institute has, according to their study, it is said the largest depletion of groundwater in the world is happening in North India, and with Delhi as the epicenter. So I don't know whether it is about how much we can think or say about this, but yes, by looking around us, if not going deep into scientific studies or various results or proclamations from other studies, but if we look around us, we can see that the kind of wastages, kind of mismanagement is happening really when we talk of water, even we can see at our places itself. So, but as we know that our economy is majorly based on agriculture. So agriculture is one of the field where water is very much required. The farmers here in our country cannot go for agriculture without water. This we all know. But we need to understand that with unmonitored water wastage, it causes a huge loss to farmers. Because when I was talking to a few of my students who are in Bihar, so they said, ma'am, it is very difficult. आधी रात को पानी आता है. We have to be, मतलब जो भी किसान हैं, they have to be awake the whole night because in such odd hours they are getting water, and so many other problems they are going through. So when we talk of that increased productivity, increased GDP, because they say that 70% of our nation's GDP is coming from agriculture, or it is contributed by agriculture, then we really need to take serious actions, or we must really have serious concern which can be executable, which can be implemented. So, but then I read one thing, that the good news is Niti Aayog has reported that Rajasthan has strengthened its water management practices, and government is also developing integrated micro irrigation networks through PPPs to integrate common infrastructure that provides water from canals to the farm gate with on-farm micro irrigation infrastructure. So what is most important is that sustainable water management, because we need to understand it. So when, though I am also from the field of management, so when we discuss with our students, we talk about it, that the management of every resource is required. So we really need to learn those techniques to manage that available resources. Though Verma sir has pointed out that so much of water is available on the earth, but that is of no use for us, that is saline or highly unused water which cannot be used. So we can go for, but I think to go to that extent would initially may be very expensive, it may take time. So we can start with the actions over here. Definitely the time will come, the things will have to go in the direction what Professor Verma was talking about. And I think Singapore, Malaysia, and these countries have already started working in that direction. So, but I personally feel most of the times that why we always look at or depend on the government to take action. Is there something which we as organizations or as institutions can really work upon? Like we have learned professors here, we have researchers here who can really come up with the researches or new ways of technical upgradation which can support, which can really bring in the better and sustainable ways of water management. For obviously that will lead to better agricultural produce, better agricultural yield. Also, it may lead to the better agricultural quality as well. So that is why I think, because they are already on these lines, thinking on these lines, that is why Professor Kalla and his team, they have organized this webinar, they have taken this initiative so that the experts who have very generously, kindly consented to enrich this session, they are there with us, and they will surely help everyone understand that how and what kind of technical advancements or upgradations for water management, uh, specifically in field of agriculture, can be done, and it will help our students and external participants also to be benefited by these sessions. So I just remember that few days back, just before lockdown, one of the agricultural experts visited our university, and we had a lot of discussion about the crop and the kind of crop which can take place here, because in our university, agriculture department is really maintaining in polyhouse a very good yield of different vegetables, and they have really worked on that ornamental plants and so much things. So we were discussing, and he was sharing the successful stories of farmers in Rajasthan. And he shared that those farmers were supported and guided by researchers and academicians like them, the expert who was talking, and his team. They have really worked hard, and there are certain farmers who are able to yield the crop throughout the year. So that was very unique from me. And I asked him that how can it happen. So he said that by educating the farmers, by helping them understand कि Rajasthan जैसी जगह में भी how can we, with the minimal accessibility of water, how can we have this kind of yield or the crop. So I hope through this session today, through this webinar, like the three eminent experts and guests are here with us. Not only our university, but all the institutions who are running agricultural programs would surely be motivated to move out in the fields and help farmers deal with these ground level challenges. So I think the reforms can be begin whenever we think of. We don't have to wait for some other time to start. And uh, I think it can be started first of all by changing the mindset, because most of the farmers, they are depending on the monsoon. So they think कि monsoon नहीं है, monsoon की बारिश नहीं है, तो हम क्या कर सकते? So I think it has to start from there itself. So it can be more about the advocacy, more about the education, the awareness which can be created. And I think it can be a two-way learning process for the students who can have first-hand experience with those farmers and getting the results together. So our senior professor Kalla sir and his team is already working, as I said, that they have initiated drip irrigation and other ways of water conservation in the university itself. So they have given that exposure to our students. So not taking much of the time, I would really like to congratulate Department of Agriculture convener Professor Kalla, Professor Sharma, and Professor MC Bora, and the entire team for organizing webinar on such a relevant theme for India, especially for Rajasthan, and giving us the opportunity to hear experts talk on this issue. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your valuable words for us. Now I would like to request Registrar of the University, Mr. Tanmay Patnaik, to kindly share few words. Sir, please.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ranjita, for giving me an opportunity to address this August gathering on this virtual platform. At the outset, I convey my sincere thanks and gratitude to all three learned speakers, Mr. Hans, Dr. Alka Upadhyay, and Mr. Jasper Goodley, for joining with us to deliver the expert lecture on new advances in water management technology in agriculture. Then in this platform, we have with us our Honorable President, Professor H.L. Burma, Co-President Dr. Besali, the entire Department of Agriculture headed by the convener, Dr. P.N. Kalla, Professor S.L. Sarma, Professor M.C. Bora, the entire managing committee of this international webinar. So to start with, this is a very, very relevant topic to me, new advances in water management technology in agriculture. Specifically, if we talk about the state of Rajasthan, it's a very relevant, not only in the state of Rajasthan, this is a national importance topic for India, because India is a agri-based economy, and 70% of the people are based on your agriculture thing. So your water conservation is very, very important in the scarcity of water by adopting the new technologies and the managing these things, how to get proper output. This is a very relevant topic. So as an administrator of this university, so I have a couple of responsibilities for this webinar. Basically, all of you must be knowing under the flagship program of Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi, your Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, under Unnat Bharat Abhiyan scheme, we have adopted 5 nearby villages, which is totally depend upon agriculture. So if I'll talk about our 9 different domains which is there in the university, agriculture is one of our strong domain. So today we are conducting this webinar just to apprise all the members attached to this virtual platform, and finally to disseminate the knowledge to the farmers of all these 5 villages. This is my prime responsibility, because at the university level under CSR mode, we conduct so many activities in these 5 villages. So this the prime objective of this webinar is to disseminate the knowledge of this advanced technology for the water management in all these 5 villages, so that the farmers can well aware about the technology, the advancement and the management, so that they can get very good output and they can implement in the field of agriculture. So we have all 3 eminent speakers who are experts in these areas. So I hope they will guide us properly, and I think it is a very good opportunity for all of us to learn from all these 3 speakers, and certainly we can implement in our university as well as in these 5 adapted villages. At the outset, I must congratulate the Department of Agriculture for organizing such an important international webinar of national importance, new advances in water management technology in agriculture. So without taking much of time, I'll stop here and allow the speaker to start the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your views about the webinar. Now I request to Professor P.N. Kalla, Dean Faculty of Science and convener of the webinar, to kindly introduce and welcome our eminent speakers. Sir, please.
Good afternoon, Professor Hans, and kindly recollect your visit to Bikaner State Agriculture University in December 2012 during my directorship and organizing secretary of international conference. You were there to share the experiences as a keynote speaker. Dr. Hans is a very dynamic water resource management specialist in Denmark, and he has a different organization. Also, he is associated with so many organizations and DHI Group, MD of DHI Group. He has so many of the experience and visited of the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, consultant of Asian Development Bank, World Bank, and visited more than 40 different countries, because water is a serious problem in all over the world. If we look back the historical background about the India, and the water is a scene of pearl, dignity of human, and edibility of floor. And I must be well aware that my Hans is somehow familiar with the Hindi language also. And Rahim Das ji ne kaha tha ke Rahim Das ji has told us what is this scarcity of the water and how the water can be used, and the water can be taken care of a precision farming. Only 1% of water, surface water, is available in Rajasthan for agriculture, and 4% of water out of world in India. And how we can use, and as a not avoiding the pressurized irrigation in canal areas, but as a drip irrigation. And Hans has worked in so many of the parameters in India also. Different sectors has been identified in the world and India, because he has been a different organization, and Hans and Singh company in Mumbai also. He has one office in Bombay, and work in water management and water resources. What are the resources, how we capture the water availability, about the top root water harvesting, and different packmarks also there. And we have worked together, Hans and myself worked together on the water management DHI group also. And I appreciate and thank you very much, Hans, to share your experiences, given a time to share your experiences about the international water management technology in India and especially in Rajasthan. And because you have been associated in Rajasthan and even the desert Thar or Western Rajasthan, Bikaner, Jaisalmer and Jodhpur, where the water has a lot of problem. Even you look at the area of Jaisalmer that you have visited, the water is a major problem in Jaisalmer area. Even the drinking water is a problem. Looking aside these agriculture issues. And I don't want to much it between you and the Hans Agarwal. I request Mr. Hans to share your experiences about what are the resources of water and what we can taking care about to boost up the agriculture production in India and especially in Rajasthan. Professor Hans.
Thank you very much for this very nice presentation, and also thank you very much for inviting me for this webinar. Let me see if I can share my screen. Are you able to see my screen now? So I assume that was a yes. But again, thank you very much to Professor Varma, Dr. Sharma, Professor Kalla, of course, and Mr. Patnaik. Also very nice to be back, at least virtually, in Rajasthan. I had very good experiences from there. I wish I could be there physically. My thoughts go to those who are really suffering from this terrible disease we're having right now, the corona disease. I hope it's very soon over so that we can have normal conditions again. But let me jump straight into my presentation, and give me a shout if you cannot see it, the presentation. So what I call it is smart water management, because I spend a lot of time on what we call smart water, and I see a huge scope for this in irrigation. So this will be my introduction, and my what's it called, overview of the presentation. What I see is the irrigation potential in Rajasthan, the concept of smart water irrigation, implementation of such, and then conclusion. So first of all, introduction. Appreciate the very nice introduction you already made of me, Professor Kalla. Not so much to add, I would say, but my background is more in water resources and less in agriculture. As mentioned, I used to be the MD in DSI India almost 10 years ago, and vice president in DSI Group. Now I have my own company, and also I have a company in India, because I wanted to do business in India. I think it's a fantastic country, and there's so much need for work to be done, and also for us experts in water management. There are a lot of good challenges there. Then I work part-time for the World Bank India, and also for Asian Development Bank in South Asia. So I'm involved in a lot of projects there, and for sure some of this will also be relevant for Rajasthan. One thing is dam rehabilitation improvement project, where I'm involved, and dams and reservoirs is of course having a very big importance here. Smart water management, I'll come into that now. So irrigation in Rajasthan, I just quickly looked it up just to catch up on the latest development. Here there is a list of the net cropped area in Rajasthan. 75% is rain-fed, 25% is irrigated, but the 25% actually accounts for the 50% of the production. So that tells us there is a lot of potential. We also see that groundwater is 75% of this irrigation water, source water, and surface water is 25%. And as we also learned a little earlier from Dr. Sharma, then depletion of groundwater is a big issue. One has to utilize both groundwater and surface water. I mentioned some of the bigger schemes in Rajasthan, down in the right corner, and also the sources of irrigation water in the lower left corner. So for groundwater, we have old wells, tube wells, and then surface water, we have, of course, canals systems. So very shortly about reservoir storage and usage. As I mentioned, I work for the World Bank in this area, and India is very well represented in terms of the number of reservoirs, but the full potential is still not utilized. So I think around 1/3 of the potential is utilized. There's scope for much more, but a starting point is to make better use of the water which is already being stored in the reservoirs. One thing which is important to keep in mind is, of course, what is the value of doing irrigation, and this is an attempt to put some numbers on. So what I would like to focus on is the production of cereal, meaning wheat and rice primarily in India, and I think Rajasthan is representative for this also. And if we look at the consumptive water use, and we consider 1 million cubic meter, then the food production, by many different ways, you can calculate it to be around, let's say, $0.14 million per million cubic meter. So if we have, say, a 100 MCM reservoir, that would yield annual revenue of $40 million if you just look at the production of agricultural products. So there is money in this also, and it is absolutely essential for the social economy in Rajasthan, as we've been told and know. So about the water usage. So I just included this also because it shows that there are multiple purposes of the scarce water resources. And I just pointed out 3 objectives: irrigation, hydropower production, and flood management. And they have kind of sometimes conflicting objectives. And I would like just to highlight one example from Maharashtra. 1-2 years ago, there was a big flood coming in August and also in September. But all the reservoirs were filled up at that time because for irrigation objectives, for the irrigation purpose, you want to fill up the reservoirs to the maximum level before the lean season. And we were not expecting any additional floods at that time of year. But it did happen, meaning that this flood water could not be stored in the reservoirs in Maharashtra, and it caused devastating flooding. So this is one example of where there can be some conflicts, but also where we see that climate change will have an impact. So the balance will change. Maybe the monsoon will extend a little longer into August and September, and that will have a change, an impact on the rule curves of the reservoirs. This is a complicated slide, and I will spend a little time on going through that. This is a way I try to summarize a lot of different points. First of all, this is about smart water. What is smart water? The simple answer is that smart water is about combining the flow of water with flow of data. So what you see with the blue color is the flow of water, and what you see with red color is the flow of data. And the source you see at the right side, that can be multiple sources. It could be surface water, it could also be groundwater, tube wells, reservoirs, and so on. That water is then conveyed towards the left side of the slide here to distributary channels, canals, to different reservoirs, and from there further on to minor canals, and then eventually into fields. And all the way along, we have many different kind of control structures. The data flow from the smart water is supposed to the data flow is supposed to improve the service level. And service level is about the farmers getting the water which they require, of course. But it's also to make the system more efficient, to make sure that we're not losing any water. And it's also to make it easier to maintain. We know every year there's a lot of siltation taking place, so desiltation has to go on. But how can you minimize siltation? So we have these different kind of what's called efficiency consideration. But it should also be resilient. What do I mean by resilient? As I mentioned before, if climate change is causing the hydrology to change, it will have an impact on the way you operate the reservoirs, the rule curves, but also the way you should regulate further down in the system. So resilience is a really, really important issue also. So then the instruments to pick up these data consist of different parts. I have shown it here, what we call IoT sensors, Internet of Things sensors, one of the new technologies. And you see these small boxes distributed around in the system, and they will be online connected. That requires, of course, that you have connectivity, and also that you can pick up the data, obviously. Drones is a new technology. Drones are developing rapidly these years. I see a huge scope of use of drones in India. There's a new regulation, which means now, not more than a couple of months old, which means that it becomes much easier to use drones also. And then you see the satellite, which is moving slowly across the slide. Remote sensing is also developing a lot. So nowadays we have very innovative and value-creating images, which will show about soil moisture, vegetation, and so on. Then obviously you also have radar systems and other big weather monitoring systems, where you can see whether there's any rainfall or it's sun and so on. And then you can optimize the irrigation accordingly. So you're utilizing all the natural rain-fed irrigation, but then you can also supplement it with water from reservoirs. Efficiency is, of course, about the crop per drop efficiency. I mean, are we growing the right crop to get the maximum out of the scarce water resources at the prevailing condition in Rajasthan? That's the one big research area. Another big area is, of course, how you apply the water when it comes to the field, sprinkler or drip technology, and there are cons and pros for both. So it's really about optimizing that also. Distribution efficiency, yes, about how to best distribute water. Will it be on a need base? Will it be on a rotation based? Or will it be proportional based? So distribution efficiency is really important. And then obviously also the water resource efficiency. I'll not come much into that. I think maybe there's a later presentation on that. So that was explanation of this little busy slide, which I've used once in a while because it shows how the flow of water is actually combined with the flow of data. And like you have storage of water, you also have storage of data. We have databases. So there can be a database at a central department place in the Department of Water Resources, for instance, in Rajasthan. But there could also be a SCADA room close to the bigger reservoirs. And then there could be smaller PCs available in water utility ports, water user boards, where the water is being distributed for irrigation. Most importantly, maybe what I see is the use of mobile phone. So I'll come back to that also. This looks very complicated. And if you want to do it complicated, you can make it complicated. My message is always start simple. And then, of course, be smart. Smart means S for specific, M for measurable, A for achievable, R for relevant, and T for time bound. But it's really, really important to start simple. The small sensors I talked about is low-cost water level sensors. My company, they provide these kind of sensors in India. They can be locally produced, and they, most importantly, also locally maintained. I think what it was also mentioned beforehand about what's called the people using these systems is really, really important that you have people who can locally maintain, for instance, sensors. Because if that's not done, then very quickly they'll not be functioning. They'll be defunctional, or they'll not be properly calibrated, and so on. Low-cost drone services. That's another thing we are looking into in my company, that we are actually making use of local drone pilots, because more and more people, it's like Uber, you can say. Uber is the people that have their own car, and then they can make a taxi service. In the future, people that will have their own drone, and then they can offer drone service. And then we can help to tell measure and what to measure and how to quality check. Remote sensing, I mentioned that before. One example here is the Sentinel-2 satellite. This is an image over Rajasthan. And as you well know, the north or west is a much more arid area, whereas in the southeast you have a more fertile area. But here you can very quickly get an overview from satellite, and also the changes over the year. Radar systems to get information about water, of course, is or about weather conditions is important. But also when you combine it with numerical weather predictors, you know, what you call models, also numerical models, and you can make nowcasting, as what is happening right now, but also day forecasting, what is happening in the next few days, and then seasonal forecasting. And this you need to optimize, again, your rule curves or your distribution, the real-time distribution of water. And that leads into the use of geographical information systems, real-time data, and hydraulic modeling. Again, for many, it is very complicated. And here it's important to keep it at the right level. So maybe this is something which you would maintain at one central location, for instance, at the Department of Water Resources, and then only the dashboards or the reports can be shown in other sensors downstream. Here I've shown two kinds of dashboard. One is for water resources, or the ambient water resources, and the other is for the distribution of water inside. Actually, this is from a water supply project in West Bengal, where I'm the team leader right now, but it could just as well be for irrigation. It is exactly the same thing, that you're having some intakes for reservoirs, for instance, and you have some discussion about sharing of water with other water users, like for hydropower and others. And then once you have it inside your system, you need to distribute the water between the different stakeholders in the system. And for that, you can have these dashboards where you show from day to day, or even from hour to hour, how the water is being distributed. And then you can set up different kind of alarms, alert, or notifications when you're getting water and so on. I would like to just show this one about mobile phone. reason for doing that is, let me just go to the next slide immediately. Number of smartphone users in India is exploding. I know that many people that say, yeah, but people in the rural area, they don't have smartphones. No, fine. But just the number of mobile phones is also very, very high. We have more than 1 billion mobile phone users in India. So mobile phones are out there. And see, what you can provide nowadays is all kinds of reports to even the regular cell phones without smartphone functionalities. But you can also send information the other way. When do I need water? Is there any system here which is not working properly? Is it silted? Is any gate not working? And so on. So you can use it as a grievance system, but then you can also use it to give information from the central centers about the availability of water. When will you get water? When should it be prepared, and so on. Then obviously, if you have smartphones, you can have all the same kind of dashboards as I showed just before on the computer that you can also have on the smartphone. There's a huge scope in developing this area and to involve people in this. This is what I call Internet of People, because you can also imagine that even though we don't have any Internet of Things connected flow meters, let's say bulk water meters, but still it may be a manual reading of the meters, but then you can enter in the numbers into a mobile phone, and then you can send that information to a central place. In the back office, you can have many systems which will be controlling that this number is plausible, that is not fraud data, that it is as expected, and so on and so forth. And if everything is okay, there could even be some kind of a compensation or bonus for those who are entering in these numbers. So that is a way to engage people through modern technology, and suddenly you can have a real-time system without installing any new sensor. So think about that, just by using people's mobile phones. So time is running out, so I'll not spend too much more time on it, but just say about implementation. So in my company, we have these 5 different steps of implementation. Instruments, of course, as I talked about. Connectivity, that is to make sure that mobile net is there, internet is there, and so on. And if not, what do you do? Third step is establishing these data centers. So it could be at different levels. Fourth step is about making some useful interfaces. And in many cases, it has to be in local language. I think in Rajasthan, it's Hindi, but there are also different languages in different districts. And then, of course, capacity building. And we tend to forget capacity building, but to me, this is 90%. Technology is 10%. So this shows just a sketch of how such a design could be of a smart water irrigation, a smart irrigation water management system. So you have different levels. As I mentioned, you can have a center at the state level, and then you can have a center, a data hub at a command area level that could be close to a reservoir. And then you could have smaller data centers or data hubs at the water user board level. And then, of course, the farmer levels. And when I say farmer levels, the mobile phone itself is also a data center where data is coming in, but the data is also going out. And then I could continue for hours, but I'll spare you for that and go to conclusion. I see a huge scope for further development of irrigation. It's not surprising that you told that in the beginning also, in India and also in Rajasthan. And there's a lot of money involved in it also, and societally is extremely important. IT and smart water irrigation is a way to harvest the low-hanging fruits, so to speak, but you have to start very simple. That is extremely important. and capacity building and getting people on board is 90% of the task. 10% is technology. Think about how fast new technologies are coming in as compared to how fast you can change an organization, for instance, in a water resource department. So there are different timescales. So the capacity building is extremely important. Implementation in 5 different steps, as I mentioned. And that's about it. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Edgar, for your excellent presentation about the India. You have a vast experience about the working in India and especially in Rajasthan. Sir, I just would like to add something with you. There are certain NGO, they are working in Rajasthan for Tarun Bharat Sangh in Alwar of Rajasthan, and they have constructed the Johad of collection of the rainwater. And what happened, sir? They entire converted into dark zone to white zone and water, because earlier they have a dark zone, and entire dark zone into white zone in Tarun Bharat Sangh in Alwar also. And earlier we have a concept of flood irrigation in command area development in Nehri and Ganganagar, and where we have used the pasturage irrigation through the drip and sprinkle irrigation and different parameters. Different parameters we are already taking care of. As far as the GIS and remote sensing, most of the organizations they already are working, but even then, son, we are a deficient of the knowledge about these issues. We are definitely get in touch with you and find out different solution and modality of infrastructure of the water management, because you have still your environment Singh private water solution in Mumbai office is there, and we will definitely contact, and so that we can improve our water strategy of our Jagannath University, is one of the best university in Rajasthan, where we have initiated the drip sprinkle water pond also in aquaculture, including rainwater harvesting system are already on the plan, and recycling of the structure. These things are already going on, and we are planning, and definitely we will get in touch with you for further improvement of our status and prospect through the GIS and remote sensing in our university. Thank you very much, sir. You have given a very excellent status and prospect about the water management in all over the India.
Thank you very much.
They look at the things that you belong to our Rajasthan, because you have a vast experience. I have heard your lecture in Bikaner in December 12 during our international conference. Thank you very much, sir. You kindly recollect. And I really definitely, on the behalf of my university and my own behalf, I really thank you very much for sharing your experiences to our participants, our faculty, and our students also. Everybody appreciated. And I just would like to give the mic to Professor S.L. Sharma for a question answer session.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Hans. You have delivered a very informative and very useful deliberation with specific reference to our Rajasthan. Sir, nowadays we are facing a serious problem of water, and it is very burning issue. Actually, day by day, our water table is going to be deep at the low level, and we are getting a very small quantity of the water from our resource source. So I invite all the participants, so if they have any query from your deliberation, they are most welcome, although it is very useful, informative. So first of all, I would like to make one query, very small query. You have given ki we do have a very low cost water level sensor. Okay. So it can give idea about the volume of the water in your ground. Okay. Can it give any idea about the quality part also?
No, the one I showed there is not for water quality. It is not. But I mean, water quality can also be many different things. So, for instance, salinity would be one issue, and similar instruments could be installed also there. But what I showed there was ultrasonic, level meter.
But it can give idea about the water level, volume
Yes.
of the water inside the water.
Yes, true.
Okay, thank you. Yes, now any question from participant side? Dr. Hans is with us. You can get benefit of his knowledge, experience. Any question?
So while people are thinking, and please ask me if you have any questions, but maybe
Yeah.
I'll just add a new trend which we are also seeing is that vendors, they will not provide instruments, they will provide data as a service. So meaning that the vendors, they will keep the ownership of the instruments, and if they need to be recalibrated or if they need to be replaced, the vendors will have the responsibility to do that. They will only get compensated, they will get payment if they provide the right data. And that's a good model in my sense, because then you're also sure that instruments are being maintained. And we see similar trends, for instance, within pumping of water, that it is pumped water as a service, is not the pump itself, just as an example. So that's a new trend in that area. So any questions?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Hans. So if there is no question, then you can send any query on his mail he has given in conclusion. His mail ID is given. You are most welcome anytime to ask any sort of the query, help from Hans. Hans is always with us and he will give all sort of the services to we people. Thank you very much, Hans, once again.
Thank
Now,
you.
I think Professor Kalla will invite to next speaker.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Alka Upadhyay, Dr. Alka Upadhyay. Dr. Alka Upadhyay is the technical director of Water, Energy, Environment Solution, and she is working with the water solution in earlier in associated with the DHI group in Delhi, but she has been shifted to DHI group in Udaipur. And she has submitted a various project related to the irrigation to the government of Rajasthan for find out the availability of the water and quality and assurance of the water availability in the Rajasthan, and so many of the organizations she has submitted the product. She is a very vast experience about the water management, water resources, water quality. She did the PhD from Banaras Hindu University in ecology, and she has a vast experience. And she is a licensing officer between the introduction with the Hans and Jasper with me. And during my international conference at Bikaner, I am really very thankful to Alka Upadhyay. And she is a very veteran scientist about the water ecology and working in the water from last more than 20 years experiences about the quality of water, water resources, and she is working with the various NGO, international NGO in Rajasthan and India also. And I thank you very much, madam. And I would like to hear our university is very indebted for you to share your experiences about the quality and water resources and how many projects that you have submitted and what will be beneficial for our universities. And thank you, madam. And your expertise, our most of the faculties and the students, staff participants, they are very eager to hear the expertise of Dr. Mrs. Alka Upadhyay.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar, sir. Sir, as you already know that I am here since last 7 years. I am almost stationed to Rajasthan. Before this, we were in Delhi and I have worked so many projects in Ganga Basin as well as in peninsular India also. So for Rajasthan, I have special interest because I have when I was a student also, that time also I got opportunity to work at Jaipur and I have traveled at so many places of Rajasthan, starting from arid, semi-arid to humid and sub-humid areas of this Baswara, Rasara. So here, sir, I would like to present my case as water use efficiency and technological advances for agriculture. Because the thing is, sir, as your VC has already explained everything that we are short in water, but we have to manage water so that we can survive with this. We cannot increase the resources, but we can improve its usage so that we can use and survive with this. Sir, what is the water use efficiency and irrigation water demand? Because these two are linked. Irrigation water demand is there, but we have to use our water efficiently so that we have water to irrigate. We all know that if we can irrigate our agriculture, then we can produce better. From where that irrigation water we will get, we can get from our increased use efficiency. Innovative irrigation practices have they enhance water use efficiency. As Hans has already explained that we do not need very much technical or very much outstanding things to improve. If we use it smartly and we use it from simple things, we can improve and we can do it efficiently for our agriculture. Irrigation water demand is mainly, it is what? If we go to our fields, we find that somebody is using a whole day of water, it is flowing to the fields. And sometimes they are only 6 hours or 10 hours of water is supplied to. So it depends on farmer and also his capacity to supply the water to his fields, or he is having diesel, or he is getting the electricity supply. So their mismatch is there. So what is the actual irrigation water demand? It is mainly by the farmer's perception. It is by the climatic condition or by the economic value of profit and production farmers. So there should be better understanding to the farmers that what is the irrigation water demand for its that specific crop. Even beyond period of water shortage, in some areas, farmers pump groundwater in order to avoid so the restricted flow is there. Even if there is rains are there and they can use that rainwater, some like in Rajasthan we have Johars or some water structures are there. So for that we do not need to irrigate water immediately. So because soil moisture is already there, but even then they use groundwater pumping, and so that because they think that if they supply more, they will be having better production. The restricted frequency demand delivery during water shortage periods. Also, many farmers still perceive that groundwater pumping is somewhat cheaper, and so that's why they do. But the thing is that in Rajasthan case especially, we should have more as we have less rain, we have but we can have better storage structures at the fields also, and also we should see that how much water we can store so that it can be used as, and we can more gain our dependency on the rainfall things. The problems in turn result from high water demanding crops and from irrigation scheduling practices. The decisions are often based only on farmers' perception, their systems and practices not monitored to assess the actual performance and efficiency achievements. Actually, we have water resources departments are there. Farmers now, World Bank and ADB, they all are, and when JICA is also working for the improvements in for water user associations. But actually, what is perceiving at the field, we can see that still water is being wasted, and they are not performing that way which they are actually being because there are no practical cases are there, so that like universities or KVKs, they can show them in better way that how from little water they can get actual or better benefits from their crops. No systematic technical support is available to growers for their daily or seasonal irrigation planning and scheduling. Innovative irrigation practices and technological improvements, that efforts are being made to increase the water storage capacity of soil and the agriculture land use. Not only Rajasthan, in other Ganga basin states also, if we see in Uttar Pradesh and in the upstream areas of Uttarakhand, and also in the this middle stretch and lower Ganges, there also the watershed developments and soil conservation practices are there. But still, it is, we will say that recently we were doing projects for NMCG, that is with Ministry of Water Resources. There we observed that so many things are still being left, and lot of things has to be done for this irrigation practices, innovative irrigation practices, so that farmers can improve within the same drop of water, they can have better cropping results. Often investments in technological improvements has incurred higher water prices, however, without gaining the full potential through water efficiency. Farmers generally lack adequate means and incentives to know crop water use. We have pressures on land and water resources because we are highly populated country, and also we have our dependency on agriculture is 70%. Pressure on land and water resources. Farm activities generate various pressure on land and water resources. One thing is quantitative and qualitative degradation. Also biodiversity losses because of increasing our farmlands. If we enhance our capacity from the same cropland through our limited water, then we can gain our we can increase our crop yield. Then it is better, or then it will be a smart choice for us. Intensive farming, tillage practices, fertilizer and pesticide, all this it finally goes to the water resources in the form of pollution impact. And then there is water shortage because we are diverting those from to irrigation practices. So that dilution for dilute water is not there for diluting these pollutions. So that's why the thing is that if we use our water resources smartly for our irrigation, then we will be having more and more water to our natural water streams. Our fresh water sources will be there sufficiently, so that dilution problem will not be there. Return flows of degraded water to downstream wetlands and aquifers, overdrafting of groundwater. This is also happening mainly because people are not using water smartly. Salinity build up in cultivated soil. These are all practices of or ill managed, I will say, that practices of farming as well as this irrigation. That's why such problems are increasing. Energy consumption for water pumping. Also the greenhouse gas emissions, because of the also pumping, transport, machinery, everything is there. So here is the one case is there for Ganga. Rajasthan is also part of it. 11 states are there in Ganga basin from Uttarakhand to West Bengal, and this Rajasthan is having 13% of area into it, and the maximum portion of Uttar Pradesh, that is 28% of it, comes in the this Ganga basin. Ganga basin, so if we see the mainstream of Ganga basin from starting from Uttarkashi to South 24 Pargana of West Bengal, 56 districts come into it. And as a total of all the state, 252 districts are there. It is highly populated, and also half of India is covered with this. So when we discuss on the pressure of land, how we are changing our land use, a very small sample I have presented here. This is the Gangotri. From this, we start from this point, from Gangotri to Devprayag, the place where actually this river Alaknanda and river Bhagirathi meets, and then they form river Ganga. So up to this place. So what we did, we had taken 4 kilometers both sides, and this these 3 data was used, and it was analyzed for 2 times data. One is 2005 and another one is 2016, and we noted that lot of changes has occurred in these 10 years. So if you see this pink area, this red area, this is showing the urban areas. A lot of developments are there. So even if we see with this small stretch of river of one, we can see that we can just visualize how much of changes are occurring in other part of it, other part of Ganga basin. This is again one small slide that I'm showing. This is the Sangam area, where river Bhagirathi and Alaknanda mixes, and here it comes to Rishikesh. Here again we can see this red area, this urbanized area. This one is 2016 and this one is 2006. So from this 10 year of differences, we can see so many this pink area and red area. See here, red area is coming. So it is all urban built-up area. So it is increasing. This is the picture that we have clicked from Devprayag. This river Bhagirathi and river Alaknanda are mixing here. So this place I'm showing here. So we can see on what is happening actually. This is causing the increase in water quality problems in the rivers. So many of urbanization is going on, and without management of resources. That's why if we are diverting waters to so many places, and also not that diverted water is not being used wisely for irrigation and for other purposes, and then again it is mismanaging our resources. So that we have to think that how long we can change our land use to different categories, and again how much we will survive with that with our limited resources. So this here we can see that a lot of work has been done by this National Mission for Clean Ganga, that is with the Ministry of Water Resources. So they are continuously working. Before that, through NGBRA, Ministry of Forest and Environment, it was being worked. So a lot of projects have come up across from Gangotri to Diamond Harbour. This is 24 Pargana. So many wastewater treatment plants are there. Industries, polluting industries have been shut up, and so many restrictions have been created so that if we go for water quality, it is still slightly it is improving. With respect of dissolved oxygen, we can see that from Gangotri to it is almost okay as part of this dissolved oxygen is concerned. But we see when we next see the BOD, that is biological oxygen demand, it should be below 3 for bathing. For if we see that a river is good for bathing, but here we can see that so many places. If we come from starting from this Kanpur up to this Allahabad, Varanasi, and again here some green is there in between this Farrukhabad area. And again, this Patna, it is almost okay. Then again, from Farakhat up to downstream here, so many industries are sales. Again, we find that BOD is in higher form. So, in spite of having so many economics things involved into it, and lot of work is going on. So it has improved, but it is still many things has to be done. Just because we do not have water to our resources, because we are diverting it, and we are not using that wisely. So that is the problem. So these are some smart techniques for cropping and irrigation, which these are very smart or simple techniques, which everybody knows, like as your university, so your student must be doing. But the thing is that how much of this information goes to farmer, and how the farmer is ready to use it. The thing is that if he is having a pump, he can pump the water. He is having the facility of this groundwater boring. So he is doing that. Why he will say think that he should do extra work just to make storage, so that keep soil moisture within in its soil, so that he does not have to pump many times or longer duration. So that kind of knowledge information sharing, so that we have to inform him that if you use more water, then what will some building will come, or some what damages will be to your crops. So that the information should be available to ready-made to the farmers through flip charts, or some information, some boards, or through KVKs. Some awareness camps should be there, so that they actually know that uses of water, more water, or getting surface supply of this irrigation water is not going to benefit them much. After all, they may have salinity or other problems to their soils. Drip irrigation is one. The Rajasthan government is also supporting, and the central government is also doing at so many places, like we have seen in West Bengal and UP and Bihar also, that for they are having subsidies, and so that even banks, NABARDs, they are also supporting farmers, so that they can have better facilities, and they can they do not waste water at least. Irrigation scheduling, that for smart water, when it is not just about how the water is delivered, but also when and how and often how much. So here actually this KVK things are involved, that so that farmers are taught well in advance. It should not be like anybody will become farmer. Like for becoming a scientist, for becoming an engineer, or for becoming a doctor, you have some specific degree. So similarly, if you want to become a good farmer, you should have something diploma or something like that, so that you at least know what type of seed, how much of seed, this soil depth, or how much of water is required for you to irrigate your field. It should not be like anything like father is farmer, then son will also become farmer. It should not be like this. So somewhere we should have some check should be there, so that we can a trained or some educated person should be farmer, and it should not be anybody's business. If you are not doing anything, you will become a farmer. That is actually wasting or misusing our resources, and we all are facing. Farming is itself a very good or very technical information is required into it. Also, anybody should not become farmer. He should have some training. So when a person is entering into it, so it is responsibility from that patwari, or some or the local KVK, or the engineering, this agriculture engineering people are there, so that they train continuously to the farmer, so that if they do not have understanding, so that they come to you and get some 6 months or 1 year some kind of diplomas, that yes, you are a smart farmer, and now you will be using it as a farming practice. And also you can advocate your information to other growers also. Drought tolerant crops, Professor Kalla can tell many things on it, that what crops should be utilized in the arid areas or in the semi-arid areas, of Rajasthan as well as to my place, like some humid, this humid areas also. Conservation tillage, like what kind of flows should be applied for which, what type of crop I am using, whether we are doing this mixed cropping, how that will be beneficial, and what combination is better used so that we can have animal husbandry also, we can survive with that, like so that we do not have dependency only on one type of crops, we have multiple crops, and also we can keep cattle also, so that we have milk or other business also with that. Dry farming, compost and mulch, selecting organics, these are the things, like also not only for our health also, but for marketing also. If you say that organic, this is this we have grown 100%, it is organic, so it has a cost also. So that's why if you do it as a business, then more and more people and more educated and trained people will come to this farming, and then only we can say that our farming will be actually, it will be increase our GDP in that terms, it should have. Because now people, what is happening, that people are shifting to Delhi, Mumbai, they are doing same small works just because they are getting ready-made monies. But in agriculture, you have to wait for 6 months or 8 months for getting money. So that thing we have to see, that how we can have better marketing of our agricultural products in this Ganga basin also, for which I was just telling that we have those 56 districts, and these 56 districts we have found that some districts have the wheat, or they have some special ragi they are growing, or some, so they can make some, like amla is there. So all these agriculture products, some related projects or the byproducts are always there. So that should be marketed in that way, like in malls also. We can have better stalls that this from this smaller or from this watershed it has been made. So that should be some the commercial or some this smart choices should come into it, so that people are more related to it and they become more ready for going for this. And then only if smart people or educated people come to this farming, only then we will be able to increase our GDP, and also we can have better this management of our resources also. So here is this slide, this I got from this UNESCO IHE study was there, where they have shown that not only in India, this water extra usage problem is also in other countries also. This is a global presentation. Here we can see that this wheat, rice and maize, these are the mainly which are actually water footprints which are using, and this is others. So for other crops, we can see that in India also we are the mainly people are growing these crops only. So that's, so if we go that how much water we are using and how much water is being used globally, then we will see the difference. One is blue water footprint, that is mainly the surface and groundwater consumed. So that is through pumping or through surface water supply. And the second is the green water footprint. It is mainly the rainwater consumed in soil and crop, or we can say that is the rain-fed crops. The gray water footprint, here we, not only in India, in other countries also, this problem is there, that so much of wastewater is being produced and treated wastewater is being produced, and it is not being utilized that smartly. So it can be used for irrigation also, and also after treatment or for other purposes also. So this wastewater we should try to, after checking its quality, that how we can use it. Globally, 86% of water consumed in crop production is green water. Even in irrigated agriculture, green water often have a significant contribution to total water consumption. In spite of having so many irrigation developments, irrigation projects are there in India and other countries also, still majority of population of us depends on this green water footprint, and it is good also. We should have more and more dependency on it, so that we do not disturb our this bank of this groundwater. The share of blue water footprint is largest in arid and semi-arid regions. Regions with large blue water proportions are located mainly in western part of US, South America, and in northern India also. Here, this is the problem, because we are having good rains in northern India. If we are using more this surface and groundwater consumed, this is not, we should have higher and better dependency on this green water footprint, in fact. this table shows that how country-wise how much water is being used for green, blue, and gray. So here we find that India is using 68% for green, and in USA it is 74, a little better than us, and China is almost same 64% they are using. And if we go by basin-wise, half of is this our country is Ganga basin. So here we can see the Ganga basin 63% is this rainfall, and for Nile basin it is 78, and for Hongo, the Yellow River, it is 60%. Well, this is worldwide comparison of that is the water that was globally in fact. And if we see the worldwide comparison of average crop yield and status of Ganga basin, we find that USA has highest average of maize as 78 this much of quintals per hectare, and this France has wheat 80 quintals per hectare, and China has 50 quintals per hectare. Average yield of maize was high worldwide as well as to mainstream. Mainstream states, I am saying that the 5 states of Ganga basin, this Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, where actually the mainstream of river Ganga goes. So this data I am giving you that data. How this district wise, if we find that in Bihar, like Katihar, Samastipur, and Khagaria, a very good average yield of this maize is there. So we can see that in our case also, because of this agriculture technology improvement, so many institutes are there. We have improved in our agriculture yield, and we are also at par with the Western countries and in China and France also. Wheat average in India as well as USA is almost equal. This is 32 quintals per hectare. Many districts of UP have shown even better than this, like maybe because of agricultural institutes at Kanpur that and this agriculture universities are there, Kanpur, Dehat, Shahjahanpur, Meerut, Bulandshahr. Similarly, for rice also, China was highest, but for Vietnam and Indonesia, where 67, 55, 53 quintals per hectare is there worldwide. But in our case also, Bihar districts like Bhojpur, Buxar, Lakhisarai, Nalanda, they are also having good average of rice yields. And also in Bihar, sorry, this West Bengal also, Malda, Bardhaman, West Bengal, they are also showing very good data for this average yield. So we are at par with this yield also, but where we are lacking, that is the how much water actually we are using for getting this yield. That is the main problem. Agriculture remains usually rain-fed, covering about 60% of the net sown area and accounts for 40% of the total food production in India. Thus, conservation of natural resources in association with development of agriculture holds the basic need to meet demand for food in the country. Because we are, our population is growing, but the resources are limited. So we have to see that how much within the same water from the same land we can grow more food. So this India has to think, or others also have to think, but we have to think more because we are more populated. At country level, the total water footprint was largest for India, for even more than China or very higher than USA. A large relatively blue water footprint was as a result of crop production is observed in the Indus basin as well as Ganga basin. So Ganga basin, they are using more water than the required water for irrigation. These two river basins together account for 25% of the global water footprint. These numbers of comparison of crop fields, that is this point 1 and 2. Here we can say that water use of produced crops in Ganga basin is very high as compared to other countries, which need to be looked after through maximizing the water use efficiency by adopting best irrigation practices. The way that Mr. Hens was showing in his slides that how we can get this accounting or auditing of this water from where this from dam it is going to the main canal, then to branch canal. So we can have sensors there, and then we can know the how much of irrigation, so which field we can even judge which field is using more water for the same crop, which field is using less water, and also what failures are there even in the supply and also in the usage. So it can be managed, but that's the thing that we should have smart farmers also. If we are developing a smart system, technically some electronic based system using so many things, we should have the smart user also. So we should have facilities to train more and more training to our farmers, and we should have only trained people in farming. We should not have, it should not be like anybody's business. Now I will do farming. No, you should be a trained farmer. So if we see that way, then only we can be survive for long. The global water footprint related to crop production in period from that data was actually 1996, 10-year data was there. So it was 78%. This is global information actually. Wheat and rice have the largest blue water footprints, together accounting 45% of the global water footprint. Here, not only India, but at global, we have to see that how water consumption for wheat and rice we can reduce and without affecting our this crop yield. At country level, total water footprint is largest for India, more than China and USA. The two basins, that is Indus Basin as well as the Ganga Basin, they account for 25% of blue water footprint related to global crop production. Globally, rain-fed agriculture has a water footprint of 5,173 BCM per year, and irrigated agriculture has a water footprint of this 20 to 30 BCM per year. Need of an action plan. So as I already said that for having smart technologies, we should have smart people also, and that smart people will come when nobody is not going to enter into it. He should have or she should have some training before entering to the this farming business. It should be, even if it is privatized or it is done by government, nothing. But we should have proper trained person. If we do not have a trained person, we will always have this. We will always face this problem, because any action plan or any strategy you are making, it will be only at upper level or at the offices only. It will not be implemented to the ground scale, because you are at the grassroots level, your farmer is not trained. Over half of the land is used as cropland, making India as one of the largest producing countries of agricultural commodities. One of the main challenges facing India is to develop strategies to sustain and improve living conditions of growing population. See, people are shifting to urban. If we have smart people at villages, we will be having better environmental as well as economic facilities. If we have better living facilities, hospitals, schools are there, then why people will not stay at villages? Why they will go to this polluted Delhi or polluted Mumbai for doing small jobs? If we have this living facilities, smart living facilities like good hospitals of education, and so things are there, then people will definitely stay to villages and they will do, smart people or the educated people will be doing agriculture. Environmental goals can only be effectively tackled by smart economic policies. If we make economic policies, economic goals, if we want to achieve that, reduce water use, or this will damage your soil, or this will increase salinity. So this information should be inbuilt in mind of the farmer actually. So we cannot preach from somewhere, or we can give some pamphlet from this agriculture department. So it will not go, it will not be imbibed to the farmer until and unless he has that kind of the percolation capacity, so that he can receive the information what you are giving to him. The agriculture sector contributes substantially to the economy. About 50% of land base is cultivated, and there is a strong network of services and industries tied to agriculture. So here we have to think that how we can this agro-based industries, or some forest-based industries, which we can link to our districts, so that every district or some region, like in Kota Sambhag is there, in region is there, or some this Udaipur region is there. So we should have 4, 5, 6 products of Udaipur, or 4, 5, 6 products of Kota. We can say these are good in this, or like this seed spices are there in Jodhpur, or so many things are there which you can better explain that which area is good for which crops, so that we can do business with that that this is organic farming, so this much of water has been used, so this is so we should have not only the economic and financial gains, and also we will have improved agriculture as well as our improved environment also. The stability and diversity of agriculture is required to be protected for the benefit of present and future generations, because we can see that how long, and after by managing, how long we will survive. We can manage, okay, if we do good management, then only maybe we will increase our capacity to 20% or 30%. But after 10 years or 20 years, what will happen? In fact, we have to improve a lot. That only improvement will come when we have smart people using this cropping and irrigation. An action plan should be designed to support agriculture, food security, and income generation impact, so that good people do not move unnecessary to these polluted cities. Improvement in agriculture and land use are essential to achieving food security, poverty alleviations. Major attention should be for the action plan should be maintaining significant agriculture land use with sufficient infrastructure. So what happens that people, those who are farming, they have good information, but they do not have infrastructure. Many times they do not have agricultural appliances also. So here is the responsibility of the government as well as the related KVK or agriculture university, so that they can see and they can judge that how innovative things they can use also for this infrastructure development, so that agriculture is not a problem for the of the low income people in the villages, making situations when farms can operate profitably and reducing risks for the farmers. If they get agriculture appliances as well as better infrastructure, then people who have with low income people which do not have much capacity or not much of land area, they will also come to it for the agriculture purpose. All levels of government and non-government agencies must provide meaningful support to develop infrastructure for agriculture, research capability to support agriculture business with recommended solutions. Propose a workable irrigation management model for each selected irrigation system. Each selected irrigation system, what I mean here that actually it will be different it will be different for Meja, it will be different for Baselpur, it will be different for this IGNP. So depending on what type of area, what type of soil, what type of other facilities is there, and also what is the demand of the local people there. Developing an area-wise brand for agriculture products. Ganga Belt is a leading producer of agriculture products, not only cereals, all seeds, fruits, and vegetables. And what I was saying that we should our agriculture product, we should have some branding of it, so that it goes and we have better marketing facilities, and also we get have better financial or economic incomes with it. Then only people will come and they will keep it as a first choice. A program should be implemented to educate the public from farming and branding of the market produce to farm market. Tourism can also be clubbed to agriculture in education. In Rajasthan, I've seen that many NGOs, they do, people come and they just do some tourism and also show that how it is. So it should be further accelerated, so that when people come here or Ganga Basin or other areas also, it should be clubbed with tourism also. People come and they stay for 2 days, 3 days, and then see how agriculture is going on. Because see, now if this is again second year, people, small little children are on this computers, they are doing online classes. So definitely we will have something like this, so that people I have a small daughter, she's 7-year-old, then how she will learn that how agriculture, how this potato is growing, or how this wheat is growing. So if you do that way, that yes, some smart classes should be there, so that others, not only farmers, they can also come and see how it is growing and how it comes out. We should not waste, we should use why water is important, why sun is important. So that kind of education system should be imbibed with agriculture as well as tourism also, so that we can have good income from tourism also. The first thing I have written here, that this is the IWRM. So it is a broader subject, so where integrated water resource management approach should be applied for best irrigation practices. Strategy for agriculture development. Some categories there I have done, like agriculture in addition to crops includes livestock, agriculture. So it should not be only the cropping. It should be for, like, if we have added things like livestock is there, some aquaculture if we can do, some forestry production we can do, then we have a variety of sources for income generation. So that should be there, and this should be our strategy for making an action plan, so that how people can better, they can increase their income, and also they can sustain our resources, and also improve agriculture and this irrigation. Technical guidelines for producing statistics on crop area and yield, livestock and poultry production, identifying best practices for agricultural statistics and assessing whether and how they can be adapted to other areas. And also we should have better data management also. So we should have this information that how much of water is being used for this, and then how much water can be saved, how much water was wasted. So that statistics should, that information should also come up. That only be with these trained people only. So disseminate reliable core economic, social and environmental data which is comparable over time and area, so that we can say that this area is having using less water, that area is using more water, and so how we can improve, and some guiding line will be there. Projects that can help to develop agricultural transport, marketing, irrigation facilities, supply, quality inputs. This should also be considered for our strategy for making an action plan. Promote climate smart and resilient agriculture. Organize activities towards finding smarter ways to produce food and operate food businesses. Strengthening resource management and rural development. Ensure that every farmer's household in villages possesses or has access to productive assets like land, livestock, fish pond, or other income, so how they can survive. The systematic plan for waste and development. Krishi Vigyan Kendra or these agriculture universities, they may be assisted to prepare training models for such skill development training. Emphasis should be there for skill development and awareness for agriculture development. Water use evaluation and assessment of water use efficiency and income per unit of water use should be undertaken. This was very adequately tackled by Mr. Hens. So that he has shown that how water use efficiency, that we can get the data, and so that if we have good data, only then we will be able to tell that what are our faults and where we have to improve and how we have to improve. So that data management is very much important for this water as well as any agriculture development. We have to improve income for fishermen as well as this forestry people, forestry and livestock. So not only the cropping, other related things should also be improved, so that people have better income generation from the same agriculture land. The strategy for irrigation development should be like irrigated area increases through development of irrigation schemes, but there is a limit how much we can, and also how much of resources we have. So we should have a better capacity, so that how we can store to our fields also, agricultural fields, so how we can have better soil moisture in our soils. So that techniques we have to think. Establishment of appropriate technologies on irrigation development in cost-effective concept. Establishment of self-reliant irrigation development, how long we can depend on other agencies. So we should have this self-reliant irrigation development should be there to our fields. Strengthening ownership and self-reliant irrigation development, focusing on improvement in quality and expansion of area, sustaining irrigation efficiency, benchmarking of irrigations, and enhancement of farmers' skill for operation and maintenance of irrigation infrastructure. Similarly, we should have adequate policies for stable irrigation water supply to fields. Inefficient this irrigation water management, poor operation, and we can see that this in the upper reaches we are using higher water, and the tail end water is not going because of breach or some other problems are there. So all that has to be sorted out, so that actual and each drop of water can be utilized from upper to the tail end farmers. Construction, rehabilitation, and improvement of irrigation structures. Even in Rajasthan also, if we say that we do not find this, we only see just some improvement in infrastructure is there. They are not doing as such very much work for this irrigation development. Only some superficial things are ongoing. So that has to be improved with the help of this KVK, so that they can guide in a better way to the departments also, that how irrigation department can support agriculture or this crop farmers in a better way. Inadequate information system on irrigation and leakage of irrigation water from the irrigation infrastructure and poor distribution of farmers. Here also the KVKs can support to the irrigation department, so that they can have better information that how this water use, this waste can be saved and can be better utilized by the farmers. Innovative irrigation practices should be utilized. Water efficient methods of better irrigation scheduling could also integrate water and nutrient management, thus minimizing agrochemical runoff and leaching problems. This what I was explaining earlier, that how we can reduce pollution load to our rivers. This we can only do if we use water efficiently for our irrigation and for other purposes also. How the way we are efficient in using, we will be only we will be able to minimize our pollution loads to our systems from non-point as well as point sources. Irrigation systems have been under pressure to produce more with lower supplies of water. Various innovative practices can gain an economic advantage while also reducing environmental burdens such as water abstraction, energy, and pollutants. Irrigation intensity must remain within the carrying capacity of the soil. Infiltration rate and water holding capacity, especially to prevent surface runoff, leach outs and erosion, significant environmental impacts must be there into consideration, because we have to think that through this irrigation or this cropping, this is not 1 year, 2 year, or 10 year business. We have to survive with the same resources, with the same land, with the same soil. So for longer, our next generation and then another generation also. So we have to use irrigation, and this we have to use our soil wisely. We have to do it wisely so that our system does not have any disturbances, and our coming generation can survive with the same land use, and they can have better irrigation and can survive easily. Without adequate knowledge of such judgments, farmers may intensify resource usage, thus increasing costs, leach outs, and soil erosion. Root zone soil moisture conditions are not measured to identify inbuilt variability. So this, what Mr. Hans was also saying, that we should have better mechanism to identify that from where the problem is. It is the problem is coming at the field level, or in the supply level, or at the source level from where the water is being supplied. So what is the problem? So that farmers the adequate water that they are getting, so that they can be able to use the water that adequately, and it is not waste. It is not wasted. It is not breached somewhere in between. Although a network of information exists for farming, but relevant information is not available for irrigation planning and scheduling purposes. Solutions and way forward here. So many things are there, but the government is also doing, and World Bank, ADB, they are having a lot of projects in our country. Rajasthan also irrigation department. Earlier they had water sector restructuring projects. Now JICA projects, their livelihood improvement projects are there. They are doing. But within that projects also, until and unless these agricultural universities and KVKs are involved into it, it will not have better results. Was actually should, because these KVKs and agriculture institutes are more linked to the grassroots. So they have better understanding, so that how the information that ADB or World Banks are they are giving to the department, that is actually received by the farmers, and actually goes to for the sustainable management of our resources and better agriculture production. Productivity of irrigated land is considerably higher than the unirrigated land. Provision of irrigation facilities makes possible the growing of 2 or 3 crops in a year, and considerably enhanced agriculture production and productivity. Cropping pattern should be as per water availability and topography, because in our studies we find that in a lot of sugar cane and everything is being used, is grown in Yamunanagar, that area. So the lot of water is being misused. If it is not required, the cropping pattern should change. People, rice is being grown in Punjab so much because they have good water, but they are not used. They do not use that water. They use mainly this wheat crop. So that imbalance should come, so that water is not being utilized mainly in the upstream only, and it should be on the basis of the topography as well as the soil type. The cropping pattern should be based on that. It should not be that if the government is supplying water from to that, so that they have changed their cropping pattern. The cropping pattern should be as per their topography, so that the extra water is for the tail user or for the middle user.
Hello there. I've been on mute. I'm unmuted, but it seems that all of you are muted.
Hello.
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 Thank you, madam, for your excellent speech regarding our upliftment of this irrigation potential. And we are already on the way for imparting a training to the farmers and extension functionaries through the different Krishi Vigyan Kendras. And we have a different pipeline of national initiative of climate resilient in agriculture, already on the way of different districts of Rajasthan. But you have given a very vast idea to enhance the watershed productivity in different parts where the water table is very low. And we are only the way to improve upon. And madam, thank you very much, and we will seek your cooperation as and when needed. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation. Now we have a third speaker, Jasper Daniel. Jasper Daniel is over 40 years of the experience about the water quality, and he has a international exposure about Asia, America, Latin America, Libya, and so many of the countries he has worked wherever the water table is very low. And he especially work on the quality of the water, which is a very paramount importance in the agriculture. What type of the water available is for the different crops, because we are depending upon the quality of water. And sir, and this Daniel Foundation of Water Solution, already he has a forum in Denmark, and he is a very excellent speaker and work on the water management and water resources, including the water quality. Sir, we have already a national initiative of climate resilient in agriculture, where we have to find out this quality of the water. Not much between you and the participant. I would like to request Jasper Daniel to share your experiences. Jasper Daniel.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you very much for inviting me. Let me just remove a few expectations, because I'm mainly talking about water resources and not water quality.
Okay.
So I can hear that somebody has to mute, because there will be a lot of noise. Let me just share a presentation for you. My name is Jesper, and I am representing the Danish Water Forum. And Danish Water Forum is an organization. Let's see if we can get everything shared. You see my screen? Anybody cannot say yes, no?
Yes, Danish Water Forum, yes. They're visible.
You see it.
Yes.
Good, thank you very much. And Danish Water Forum is an organization for the Danish water sector. And actually, Mr. Hans, who was just presenting for you, is member of our organization. Water and water resources. Mrs. Alka just told us about the importance of the water resources and how India is looking at that area. I'm trying to go a little bit deeper, maybe into some of the overall principles of how we should manage water. So this is just to show you where Denmark is, a tiny spot on the globe where we are from. We are very fortunate to have pretty good water resources available. But we have in Denmark had a history of working abroad, working with water resources in so many different areas. And Mr. Hans just told you about his work, what he has been doing, and also his work in India. I've had the pleasure of working in India, actually, together with Hans and together with Dr. Alka. And I have some experience of India, not that much. So I hope that if I say something which is not completely correct, then bear with me. Now, we are in a problem. We are in a climate challenge, and we have what we call the vicious circle. The vicious circle actually tells us that we have climate change, and we have also a problem that overall wet is getting wetter, dry is getting drier. What does that mean? It means that area where we already have some good precipitation will have more precipitation, but many of the dry areas will get even drier. Then we use a lot of energy to handle more and more of the waters, which increases the CO2 emission, and then we are back again on improving or actually killing or moving on the climate changes. If you look at this map here, you will see how the things are expected to change in some like a small part of 100 years. What will it look like? If you look at India, it actually looks as if the average amount of water will actually look a bit better. But we can also see that the temperatures will rise quite substantially. Please, could I ask all of you who are unmuted to mute, because it gives a lot of echo here. Thank you. So when we are talking about these different things, I have here some basic observations. We know that the resources are declining. We have to look at the value of what water can actually provide us. We need to have a better protection of water, and we need to reduce wastage. And we also need, one way or the other, to put a price on water, and put a price on water depending on, and actually saying on how much it actually is worth for us. The way we pay, or the way water is paid in India today, is that it doesn't actually cover the cost of what is water actually costing to develop, to send out to the consumers. And in principle, it doesn't matter whether it's out for the rural areas or for the urban areas. Subsidies are used a lot, but that also means that nobody actually cares about water in the way they should care about water. And that is really one of the major problems in India and in so many other countries in arid areas. We see, for instance, in cities that there is an enormous amount of what we call non-revenue water. And that is actually water which is lost in the distribution systems through leaking pipes, through valves that doesn't work. And most of it comes down to the fact that people who are installing all this, they do not have the skills to do it. They have never learned how to put two pipes together. They have never learned how to operate a valve. They have never learned how to connect a pump to a water system and making sure that the pressure is okay. So as Dr. Alka just said a little bit a while ago, education, and training is extremely important. And it's not something we can wait with for 10, 15 years. It has to start tomorrow. We have to make sure that people who are working with water in India, regardless if it's water for the agricultural sector or it's water for the urban areas, that they have to have the necessary knowledge, the necessary skills to be able to work with the water, so we can actually cut down on water being lost. In urban areas in India, the water loss is between 35, 40% up to 70%. So imagine that for every 100 liters produced, only 30 liters reaches the consumer. And this is really a waste of energy and a waste of water. So we have some substantial problems. Another problem is also that, and we also heard that from Dr. Alka, that many farmers are starting to pull on the groundwater resources. And they are pulling and pumping from it, but actually nobody knows how much water we have in the groundwaters. So the mapping of the groundwater resources is extremely important. Imagine that we suddenly empty some of the groundwater resources. That would actually lead to catastrophe in many places, because drinking water may also be coming from the groundwater sources. So depleting the groundwater resources may also improve, or act on the villages and on the people who are reliant on getting their daily amount of water for drinking. So mapping the groundwater resources and setting aside areas where we can use the water resources and where we cannot use the water resources is extremely important. It also means that if we are going that way, we need to find out where do we have to protect our water resources and where can we just use them. That's what I call the zoning of activities. And then also, and it was also touched upon by Dr. Alka, we may have to consider new crops and new irrigation methods. And certainly, most important is actually the fact that if we look globally, and that probably also goes for India, about 30% of all crops produced are wasted. They will never end up in the stomach of anyone or in the stomach of the livestock. So there's a lot of loss there. And 30% of crops lost is also 30% of water lost. So these things has to be taken into account. Water is so important. Without it, no way forward. Without it, no crops. Without it, no societies. So if we don't do anything very soon, we have a substantial water crisis. And what is safe water? Well, safe water in principle is to make sure that the people out there have access to water that can be drunk and which is safe. So, for instance, a couple of years ago, the World Water Day had the theme of nature for water. And that means that we are actually having to work better with nature to make sure that the water resources we have available are also available for us for the next couple of years. Let me take you down the alley of a few slides on water and world. If you look at this one, this is the expected water stress by country in 2040. It's only 19 years away from now. And you can see that India has a very high ratio of the withdrawal to the supply between 40 and 80%. If we look at the trends in the water stress, you can also see the large areas of India will have large water stress. And some areas hopefully will not have that much stress. It looks like from this angle that some of the central parts of India will go free, but the other areas will have high to extreme high stress. What are we using the water for? Well, they're using the water, of course, for many different purposes, but of course, the agriculture sector is the one that draws heavily on the water resources. You see again here that the economic water scarcity is again hitting most part of India. Water for people or water for food? Well, it's a basic question that we have to look at. We need to make sure that we have something like 50 liters per capita per day. And that is a political question that has to be taken into account. And then we have to secure our daily basic diets. And that is another 2,500 liters per capita per day for running the agriculture. And that is the real problem, the big problem that we have. How can we actually match those two? And how do we make sure that we are doing the right thing? If you look at the little picture down here on the right side of my slide, you'll see an irrigation farm, probably for rice. Well, maybe rice is not the right crop to grow anymore in many of these areas. That means that we have to find new crops. And you'll hear farmers say, but we have been growing this for 2,000 years. Fine. But now we are starting to something else. You have to find a different crop that actually lives up to the amount of water which is available. Freshwater withdrawal by sector. What is the biggest one? Of course, the agriculture. The agriculture pokes in something like 80% of all water. And that also means that only 20% is left for other purposes. And here drinking water is part of those purposes. Industry does not pull that much water in India, but you can see that is what is really hampering countries like Germany, France, Belgium, all these northern countries where the industry is quite large. So industry is not the big culprit in India, it's the agricultural sector. The water scarcity in 2025, only a few years down the line, is again that we will have physically water scarcity in most of India, either directly or indirectly. So something has to be done. And finally, if we look at the projections of the annual precipitations, there might also be some changes in what we are seeing in the areas for India. So all of these things are adding up to finding out what we do. I would say that today, in general, we act as if we were the enemies of the water. We try to do anything to take all the water we can, but we don't think about how water should be sustained. We need simply to work with nature. We need to work with nature to enable also fulfilling the SDGs on water, especially number 6. And we need to accept that water is an asset and the most important asset we have. As I used to say, you cannot quench your thirst in gold. You can only quench it in water, one way or the other. So we have to take that into account. But are we thinking about that? Now look at these two pictures from India, from very beautiful gardens and homes. The first one to the right, to the left, no water has a chance to penetrate into the ground and be in groundwater again. But if you look to the right, well, the same effect of being able to drive up to a house is still there, but the green areas can absorb the water whenever it comes and make sure that we are creating better possibilities for increasing our groundwater resources. So we simply have to think about how we are working with nature. And if you take it to the extreme and look at conditions in India and water and how much water is available, you will actually see that a lot of people in India do not have access to simple things as we would say, like a toilet. It's somewhere between 500 and 600 million people, which is something like 70% of the rural population. And those who don't have access to safe drinking water is about 160 million. A lot of people. And here we are talking about how we develop our latest internet systems and how we do bigger cars and how we do better mobile phones. But please take a look at these numbers and you'll see maybe we should think a little bit about how and who we should allocate our resources to. Modeling can do a lot. Modeling can tell you where things are going good or things are going wrong. Modeling can give you an idea of where water is distributing when you have the wet seasons and can you do something about it. Here you'll see a small illustration on how a model can be used to predict what happens during the monsoon. Well, in this case it's Denmark, we don't have a monsoon, but we have heavy rains also. So it's a question again of how do we work with nature? How do we ensure that water is not a problem, but water is kept safe, and water is used, for instance, for the groundwater. We have experiences from Denmark with high water and with heavy rains. So we have learned a lot and we are still on the learning curve. But we have also learned to take water in as a possibility and to change the way that we are developing our cities to make sure that we can actually take care of the water. And if you think about the two driveways before, this is what a new park in Copenhagen looks like. A park on a daily basis, but a rain reservoir when it rains. Thinking nature together with our urban areas. So final words, some key subjects for India. We need to take, as we say in Denmark, the spoon in the other hand. We need to make sure that we do a good water management, and that's both for the urban and for the rural area. And I think that Dr. Alka was talking about what we need to do with the farmers. Many of the things you said, Alka, I have seen the same sentences in the very famous Green Revolution of India, which I think was in the 50s. Very little has happened in those 50 years. So I think we still need to do something fast. We cannot just talk about it. We need to do something. And that requires action from our managers, from our politicians, and from people who dare take the right steps to ensure that water is available. We need to optimize everything. We need to optimize the way we're using energy for our wastewater treatment systems. We need to optimize the way that we are pumping, optimize the way that we are distributing water. We need to make sure that we are utilizing the wastewater, that it's cleaned and then used as a new resource, maybe for agriculture or for other purposes. And for all, we need to make sure that the children especially are aware of all this. All our old people that we are here, many of us too old, how do we learn? How do we bring things forward? We are more or less the lost generation, but we have to make sure that the next generations, they know all about water. They all know all about the awareness and the value of water. And they are the ones to rethink how water and urban areas are going to work together. But it takes the courage to do what is needed. Thank you very much for your attention. I cut this a little bit shorter because time is running out and I'm actually halfway into a new conference, but I'm ready to take some questions.
Thank you very much. Yes, for that you have delivered a very excellent talk, because we have already initiative about the climate resilient in agriculture in different areas. And as far as the awareness is concerned, in Rajasthan, we have a 42 Krishi Vigyan Kendra, all Krishi Vigyan Kendra are envisaged to announce the awareness for water management technology. Even the government has launched so many of the program for top root water harvesting, drip and sprinkler irrigation. They provide subsidies also to the farming community. Even then, there is a much things are needed for enhancing awareness to the farming community for the water conservation and reservoir of the water, and even the rainwater harvesting. As various technologies are there, so that this can only be upliftment the agriculture production in total. Thank you very much, Jasper, that you have spared the time, because you have given a time of 3:30, and this we have planned our webinar in such a way that you must be available, because our all participants are very eager to hear about this quality of the water. And
Yes.
I also thank you very much, and I give a mic to Professor S.L. Sharma for the question answer and provide a vote of thanks to all the speakers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jasper. Actually, you have delivered a very excellent deliberation, and you have given keynotes to our Indian scenario also. Actually, I tell you one thing. Our one Hindi poet was there long back, Rahim Das. In Hindi, he said, "Rahiman pani rakhiye, bin pani bin soon," means a person must keep reserve the water. Without water, there is no life. So, so now he forecasted long back, 400-500 years ago, our Indian poet. So actually nowadays, what we are facing a problem. Day by day, our water table is going down. Recharge is very poor because the rainfall pattern is not scattered. So because of this, demand is going increase and increasing. Our agriculture practices, they do require more water. Industrial growth is not possible without water. So water management is a very burning issue at the global level.
Yes.
With specific reference to our Rajasthan. And I tell you one thing, Mr. Jasper, Israel is pioneer in this irrigation management part. They do have only 300 millimeter water, but not a single inch of the land they keep free from the greenery. So other countries have to be give vote on this, and this topic is appealing to our state especially. Thank you very much for your deliberation. Now I invite two participants, if they do have some questions. Jasper is with us, so you are most welcome to make your queries. Any supplementary information you need in addition to his deliberation. So session is open for question and answer.
While you're all thinking, I heard Dr. Alka talking about the need for looking more at soil moisture. And there's actually a couple of companies in Denmark who's actually developed soil moisture sensors. That means that you can actually have a sensor out there in the field, and then you can set a set limit to when do you actually need to do some irrigation based on the knowledge of the crop that you have. So that might actually help some ways to improve how water is used, so you actually get more crop per drop.
Okay, thank you, sir. So any question? Our speaker is available with us. You can ask. And if you don't have any question, then you can send your question on our mailbox. So it will be replied through mail only. Our second speaker was Madam Alka Upadhyay. She has given a very good information with irrigation, and she is expertise in this field. So thank you very much, madam. So if you have any question regarding her deliberation, you can send on the mailbox. Now, good evening to all. Now we are going to be sum up the today's webinar. So it is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks and acknowledge the contribution of those who rendered their services for success of this international webinar. in new advanced age of water management. Really, topic was very excellent. So first of all, I would like to convey my heartfelt thanks for sparing couple of minutes for this seminar, Mr. Hans E. Jagro, and he is a international authority in this water management field. So, sir, we are really highly thankful, and on the behalf of the Jagannath University, thanks to you, sir, for excellent deliberation. Dr. Alka Upadhyay is also highly thankful for delivering a good deliberation. Third speaker, Mr. Jeswar. He is convener and director, Dennis Water. He gave a very excellent deliberation, sir. Our VC, sir, Professor H.L. Verma, sir, highly thankful for encouraging and for grand success of this today's webinar. Vaishali Madam, Pro Vice Chancellor, our Tanmay sir, P.N. Kalla sir, they are highly thankful for giving their inputs for grand success of this. Now our convener of organizing secretary, Ranjita Soni, Madam Madali Anusa, Nisa Meena, Ashish Vyas and Nandan Singh, they are also highly thankful. Nandan Singh and his team. Actually, Nandan Singh is the pillar of our university. He has given very good services. Thank you very much to all. Now, today's webinar is going to be sum up. Thank you to all once again. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.